Yeah, Utssav, we are absolutely all set, and welcome everyone, and very good evening on this Saturday evening. And let me ask a very simple question to all those of you who are in education industry. I repeat, who are in education industry. This is a must attend session, provided if you want to really disrupt the market. When I say disrupt the market, it means really you can disrupt the market even in these radical times. When you're thinking that the work is down, everything is down. And if you want to disrupt the market in education industry, then definitely this is the must attend session with you, for you, because I have got someone who's very special, and his name is architect Utssav Gupta. And today he's there with me to just make everything possible what I have committed to each one of you. Thank you so much, Utsav, for being there, every Saturday, and I'm certain that this time, you've got something for education sector, so it would be very helpful for all those of them who are there into that industry particularly. And before we begin, I would really like to acknowledge all the viewers who are watching this session. Every week on week basis, I really want to acknowledge each one of you for watching. Thus, we both will make sure that you get the best value of your time and effort invested, my friends. And last but not the least, I would just begin it up with just saying one thing. Guys, just be ready to disrupt if you are into education. That is going to be the very utmost top takeaway from this session. Over to you, Utsav. Now, how do you say, to disrupt? What does that mean? And why for specifically education? I mean, we would love to understand.
Hi, Ankur. Yeah, thank you for having me once again, and hello everybody over there. So, if you this talk is going to be focused on the education sector, and just like any other industry, we have a lot of segments within these, and as an industry player, as an entrepreneur, one of the key things to stand out is to actually understand one's USP, which the entrepreneur is providing to its customers. Now, this is the most important thing in the education sector, though it's the same education, CBSE, for example, if you're in the schooling or university, all kinds of managements and technical programs. But until one has a USP, they are still fighting that battle of the race over there. So finding the USP is the most important thing, first of all, to create the disruption in the industry. If you want to have, one has to get out of the clutter. This is the most important factor. And that is what I've found in my projects, that the institutions which have this USP clearly defined, or the market segment clearly defined, and there are a couple of more parameters that we will talk about in this session over there. Then one can actually build around those values, around those USP factors, and that is what creates the standing out for these entrepreneurs, for these institutions. And so that is what creates that distinction from there to the competitors.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. This was very importantly said. Also, that means that let it be any school or any college or any institution, specifically in context of education industry. What you mean is that they need to find their USP, right? That is what you mean, right?
They need to find the USP, and they need to display that university, the USP. So just by
how to find that is something, isn't that challenging? I mean, for an institution or for an educational institute, I mean, how to find their USP? What do you suggest for that?
Yeah, so it really depends on a lot of factors. Some of them being that which market segment are we serving. So let me just quickly share my screen over here,
sure.
So I can just draw some sketches. If it's visible, let me know.
Yeah, it's visible.
Great. So let's look at from a USP perspective. So what is a USP? It's a value proposition, and the value proposition is based for the customer, which in this case is students and parents. So when they send their, if you look at from the parents' standpoint, when they're enrolling into a college, there is a certain outcome they're looking for from the education sector, for the school. For instance, if I know that your kids goes to pathways. So when you send your when you send your kids to pathways, what is the expectation that you have versus while you're sending it to any other school? So there's a certain mind, there's a certain outcome in our heads, or in this case, the parents' heads, when they're sending their students to a particular school. So if we quickly plot a diagram which says, which has the importance on this axis and satisfaction on this axis, what we observe is that there are a lot of markets that exist. So, from a satisfaction and an importance factor, and most of the people, most of the institutions revolve around this segment, which is the average of importance and average of satisfaction. This is what sets apart the universities from UK and US, for that matter. Their universities, they are very outcome driven. They have a very clear sense of situation. Like for example, MIT, for example, for engineering, they know that what is the outcome you require, and they go high up on this importance scale, and they also target a certain satisfaction ratio within that thing. So maybe they will die over here, for example. So if this is a business canvas which we do with institutions when we engage them with them, and what we will observe is that the current sectors that I was talking about, these guys, uh, this quadrant is actually quite oversaturated, and this quadrant over here is quite well fed into the market. So if the school is already operating, or if the institution is already operating in a scenario which either is oversaturated or is optimally saturated, they're going to have a hard time distinguishing themselves in the market. And that is why the USP is required. The schools need to have a clear sense of value proposition, what they stand for, and how are they different from the market. And once that is done, they come into an underserved market, this one. So that is a step one of finding the USP, to understand what market are we serving, and the other parameters that surround this statement, for which area are we serving. So if one was to broadly understand how to derive the unique value proposition, there are largely three areas. First area is your business case. So we call it BC, the business case, in which one says that, okay, this is the kind of business we want to do. We want to go that way. We want to go the excellence way. We want to go. There can be many sectors. It doesn't matter. And by no means I'm saying that we should go for the most premium one. Even the regular business is also a very good one. A regular business, I mean to say masses, not qualitative but quantitative.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to have a clear sense of direction of which way we are going.
Okay.
The other case is the user. So if one has a business case over here, what is the user and what are the needs? So needs. All right. So let's see what the needs are. So first is your physical need. You got the physical need. So physical need means what do people require? So do they require master's course? Do they require bachelor's course? Do they require bridging courses? And now in the COVID times, you require a very different kind of course. You require probably an year gap course. You probably require. So that is a sort of intersection between the business case and the user case over here. Then you got your qualitative needs. We all know the Indian education system. Quality is something that all the education entrepreneurs are currently struggling with. All the critics have an issue with the quality, and that is a part of a need. So when we are starting up the institution, what is the quality parameter that we're talking about? So ultimately, it starts responding towards your program. How many lecture rooms do you require? What kind of lecture rooms do you require? Are we talking about the master classes room? Is that the dispersion concept? So before the architectures, as an architect, these are not the kind of questions one expects, or these are not the kind of conversations one expects from us. But in order to create that perfect, vibrant infrastructure, I need to know how are you dispensing the education to the user? What is the media of the user? Is it modular? Is it mass? Is it you're gonna have some master classes? All those things, they have a direct impact on the area program, on what the school or what the college is gonna require. Then is the emotional needs. Are we talking about, now this is a very important factor, especially currently it is a very emerging factor, because we are talking about now in a scenario where it's very experiential education oriented. So when you talk about experiential education, your infrastructure starts playing a major role. You've got to enable students to start exploring the science, the math, the discipline by himself. Maybe, and it somewhere also includes the impacts of the program, because we look at now institutions going into robotics labs or design thinking labs. So the module, the self exploration expression starts coming into there. Then of course is the user needs. And this is very, very important for the higher education. We see now a lot of late higher age students coming back to the education. So they have different needs. For example, there are married women, they are pregnant women. You require mothering care. Your teachers require mothering care. So from various users' perspective, this is a very important factor that comes into the play. So the first is the business case, then is the need, and then is something very, very important, and that is your culture. And culture is made of values, or you got your aspirations around it. So how is institution A different from institution B? Ultimately it comes down to culture. You got your business numbers, you got your business aspirations, you got this marketing setup. You also identified the business segment and the target, and you created a program around it. But then what is the culture? And this is where why we prefer. There is a clear distinction between why ISB is ISB and IIM is IIM, and the other business schools. The distinction they carry. From these schools. So if you really look at these case studies from this particular lens of the intersection between the business case and the and this and the overall thing, that's the reason how this the disruption happens in the school. Once you have a very clear sense of a scenario of which way we are going to go.
Wow, it's so mind blowing, that an educational, I mean, even an educational institution, you need to have so much of clarity right before, even like you told in the first session, the inception stage. I still remember, that at the even much before at the inception stage, I mean, when you just thinking at that time only, if all these plannings are done, I think that is so important for building any institute in context of education, right, Utssav? That's what you mean?
Correct. So until we know what we want to do, especially in a consumer section, until we know what do we stand for, the architecture cannot respond to that. And once you meet these two ends together, once you know what you want as an outcome and the architecture showing that, in an institution, your marketing is solved, your foundation is solved. You don't have to worry about the culture because it sort of houses certain culture. Very basic, simple elements. Like if it's about an open learning, then open learning needs to have open spaces where people can interact. It needs to have specialties rooms where people can interact. The way people move in and out. And now with regards to the context, having a campus which is out of Delhi, for example, or having a campus within the Delhi, you got footprint issues. So how can you develop an urban campus with the same values? So that's quite a challenge. But what if we don't know the values? Think about that.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening? We just build a building, and what does that building has to offer? And so even though there's a strong business case, like I showed, let me share back to you that diagram again. Even then we have a very strong business case, which to support the entire argument, let's say we were targeting, let me change the color here. Let's go for orange. Let's say we were targeting over here. And yes, there will always be constraints. There will always be constraints of sight or something of that sort. But let's say we fail to take values into account. What happens? We slip back into a certain section.
Hmm. True.
Yeah. And that is the most devastating thing, because even we had the vision, because it was not communicated, we slipped back.
Hmm.
I believe this is the major reason why institutions in India, they are no matter how hard they try, they are not able to completely sustain in this zone, is because of this clarity that is required while planning. And and the responsive nature of architecture towards this zone, it can change it. As you can see, it can make and break a situation. So I truly believe that once we have this sorted, we got a lot of things sorted. And yeah, this is what the USP is all about, how do you make the school stand out.
Wow, this is truly phenomenal, Utsav. I mean, I can't believe that right even when the architecture starts right from that level, the core understanding of the fundamentals is so important of why are we doing it. Then again, it boils down to why, what you discussed in the very first session, that everything depends on, why are you doing it. Let it be let it be any building or any institute or any, whether it's education or whether it's anything, right?
Yeah, so yeah, maybe start the first two sessions where we were talking about a lot. That time we didn't have a context, but now we can relate to it.
Yeah.
How will you decide whether you want a doubly loaded corridor system or you want a courtyard system? How do you decide whether what is the width of my courtyard until I know the qualitative aspects and what are we trying to do? How do we know what kind of classrooms I want to go for? Do I want to go for digital classrooms? If yes, then what kind? Do I want lockers? Do I don't want lockers? Is my value proposition to allow students to carry the notebooks through and through, or do I want the students to come in, with a free mind and come over here? So,
Yeah.
these things make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, everything, the whole design, the whole concept, the epitome of the entire design structure, interiors, everything will differ once that plan, if that plan is missing in the mind of the person who's building that structure, or who's having that inception of the whole idea. If that is missing, that with a very strong why in their brain, I think then definitely yes, it would certainly impact to them in a long run, that they would not have a marketing USP or a very clear, a niche defined, message for them. I think that's what I can feel.
Correct. Absolutely. The outcome needs to be extremely sharp. What do we
Sure.
want? I mean, of course, there's not one outcome. There are always hundred of outcomes, but we try and define them. We try and we try and sit with the client and see how we can define them, because that's what my outcome-based model is all about.
Mm.
You got so many parameters. You got quality, you got safety, and now you can see the pandemic, how it's that's part of the safety program. There are new emerging kinds of education programs. All this is a part of architecture when we approach it. All these are required before a design can truly fit in and express that USP of the client that he's trying to achieve.
Mm. Very nice, very nice, very nice. I think this is truly heart-touching, Utsav. That even in education industry, there is so much to do in terms of homework, which needs to be done prior even of thinking of what needs to be done. So what's the message which you have, Utsav, for all those who are watching this video who are into education industry, let it be from school, because probably every couple of years, 2 3 years, 5 years down the line, someone or the others, whether alone or in collaboration, they try to expand themselves. So what's the message from you, from your end, to them?
I would say start with by understanding where you want to attack. That the first canvas that I showed, start with that, know what you want, create a vision around it. Let me just reshare the screen again. So again, coming back to this canvas, there is nothing wrong in going into mass niches or qualitative niches, but you need to know what you want. and just try and see where you lie in this diagram. So you know, have that clarity before, or seek some consultant to get this bring out this clarity before starting, and and really come up from a future perspective, because believe me, it has a lot of scope for disruption. If 90% area entrepreneurs are attacking this zone, you can see the opportunity canvas, how much area is left blank for other people to explore. So just think big, dream big over there. It will happen. If you go by process, it will happen. Just need to know where to attack.
Wow. Stunned. Awesome. This was truly amazing message for all the educational, people who are there, building any kind of upcoming structure, or, who's there in pipeline, or they're planning to construct a new one. Definitely, this message for you would be very, very important to note and to implement, because implementation is the real key. If you implement, certainly, that'll be very, very beneficial. Once again, Utssav, I would really like to thank you, for taking out your precious time and to adding so much of value to every person, who's there into education industry, directly, indirectly related to
My
that.
pleasure.
This would not just add value, to just the people who are owing the educational institute or just building it. But I feel, that this session, could change the way uh, the entire education industry is working, because at the end of the day, they are not just working for them. They're working for to give a great world-class experience to the students. And I think if the students will not get that experience which they want, to get a holistic overall experience, what they want, for the overall schooling, or the nurturing to happen during that time, it would affect and impact very deeply to the overall economic growth, what I strongly feel. I mean, the education sector is directly related to the economic growth. If you see, I mean, it's been there, for years now. And now what I personally feel that, your this theory, what you've told about your business needs, and your emotional, aspirational, all those needs, business cases, what you've, the entire plot which you've plotted that, out for them. I think this one single plot has the power to directly impact the economic growth in context of, if the education sector will grow up, and will understand their customers' needs, in a better, their customer wants in a better crystallized, defined way, then there is no way that our country's education, there would not be a day far that it would certainly become world class. It is getting better and better, but yes, it would the overall experience would get certainly, much better, what everyone wants, and it certainly evolves every single day. Thank you so much, Utssav, and thank you all the audiences for watching this session live. And we are certain that you must have taken a lot of value. And again, we'll catch you back on the next Saturday with some another spicy topic, and it will also add massive value to each one's of your life. Thank you so much. Have a great
Ankur?
weekend ahead. Yes, Utssav, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, if I may, I would love to hear some comments from the audience, and you can share my email ID, and I would love to, answer the questions if they have in person.
Oh, yes.
So while you're posting the video, just if you can add my email ID, so anybody wants to reach out for any questions, I would be very happy to.
Definitely, guys, if you are into education sector, let me tell you, that then just even a chit chat for 15 minutes, will make you understand and realize, that what's the real potential of understanding this whole plot. Because knowing this plot is one thing, and then actually realistically implementing is a different ball game, right, Utssav?
Yeah.
It's a different ball game, and you cannot do that by understanding it in depth, while having an interaction with Utssav. So once I would certainly put your email ID, post the session there and then only, and you can get in touch with him. And yes, it would very, very beneficial for you to take your overall experience to the next level. Thank you so much, Utssav, for being there, and we would certainly
my pleasure
in the next week. God bless.
My pleasure. I'd
Safe.
like to hear what the audience thinks.
Bye. Take care.
Bye. Take care. Have a good weekend.